how's it going, guys? Sam and I decided to take the canoe out. We've been doing some paddling, we've been doing some fishing, and now it's about time for a beer. What's the perfect beer to drink on a hot summer afternoon? You know, you can go for something super light like a Pilsner, you can go for something if you're a hophead like a huge IPA, but for me, that sweet spot is right in the middle. I'm always looking for that perfect summer pale ale. And wait a second. Oh, I got something. Wait, I got the Brewgrass Pale Ale. This is a good one, guys. You probably noticed if you come into the shop, you know, we try to do everything tailored to your all's tastes, and then a lot of times we're fortunate enough to get to try the beers after you guys make them and bring them back in. We can talk about them. Over those countless and countless iterations, this is kind of what we've developed as our final product. Let's try it. Clocks in at just a hair under 6% ABV, and it's around 40 IBUs. It pours a nice, rich gold with a nice pillowy head. Really a perfect beer for any occasion, so let's go back to the shop and we'll show you how we made it. You want that? What makes the perfect pale ale? For me, it's all about balance. We want a beer that's hoppy, but not too hoppy, and certainly not bitter. We want a beer that's crisp and clean, but not quite as light as a Pilsner style. For me, the perfect pale ale is something that anybody can appreciate. It's got enough character and flavor for any beer nerd or beer snob to get into, but it's also familiar enough for any casual beer drinker to enjoy. How do we go about crafting that perfect pale ale? Well, it all starts with the malt. So when it comes to picking out the malt profile that you want to build your pale ale around, there's a million different ways to go about putting all these different combinations or choosing which grains you want to use and putting them together. A lot of the times you'll see caramel and crystal malts getting used. These are nice and more traditional styles. They add a really nice kind of toffee or light brown sugar kind of sweetness. Not my personal preference. In a pale ale, like we've said, I like to go a little bit crisper and cleaner to really bring out some of the more subtle hop flavors. So for our grain bill, we're going to rely on some Vienna malts as the main kind of flavor base here. We're going to pair that with some wheat, which will add some body and some head retention. A little bit of Victory malt, which adds a splash of color into the beer and also like a light, nutty, biscuity kind of flavor. And the secret ingredient, the last one we need to measure here, is just a touch of special roast, which will add just a very, very subtle, bright kind of maltiness, almost like a sourdough bread flavor. So once the grains are all weighed out, the next thing to do is run them through the mill. So we figured out the malt. The next step to building your perfect pale ale is to pick out the hop profile that you want to use. Again, we want it to not be over the top, so for our bittering edition on this one, instead of going something more traditionally American, like a high alpha variety, we're going to kind of go a little bit old school. We used an ounce of East Kent Golding to bitter this one. It's a nice, earthy, floral hop that's not crazy over the top, but will provide a nice balance with the malt profile. And then, to get more of those traditional American pale ale flavors, we're going to use an ounce of Cascade split into 2 additions throughout the boil. And then for that final flame out or aromatic addition, probably my personal favorite go-to hop, an ounce of Citra, which will really give it that nice grapefruit juice, grapefruit peel kind of aroma to tag on to the end. Now that we've got the hops, the final thing to think about is what kind of a yeast we want to use to ferment this thing out. It's an American style pale ale, so we want to use a clean, neutral American style of yeast, and you can't get much better than good old Safe Ale 05. It's a really, really nice strain that's very tried and true, very user-friendly, and extremely tasty. So now that we've assembled everything that we'll need, we'll show you guys how to put it all together. The brewing process on this one is pretty simple. We'll heat up our water and steep our grains at 154 degrees for about 20 to 30 minutes if you're doing the extract version. Then we'll bring it to a boil and add 1 ounce of East Kent Golding hops right at the beginning for our bittering addition with 60 minutes left. The ounce of Cascade will be split between the 30 and the 10-minute mark, and then the final flame out addition will be that last ounce of Citra right at the end of the boil. So it's 2 weeks later, the beer has been brewed, the beer has been fermented, and now we're drinking it.
That's the best part.
That's the best part. So, cheers, guys. So what makes a perfect pale ale?
Well, first it needs to be pale.
Yeah.
And then it also needs to be an ale.
Very appropriate.
So, I think for pale ales for me, I want the differentiate it from an IPA.
Yeah, it shouldn't overwhelm your palate with hops. You still get a little bit of the malt character.
Yeah.
It finishes clean, but not,
clean, yeah.
You know, not like going away into nothing. It lingers on your palate with that little bit of maltiness, a little bit of bitterness. For me, that hits that sweet spot.
I like a very robust dry hop.
A little bit of dry hops can go a long way to adding all that flavor.
Yeah, I feel like the APA is like all about, you don't want the bitterness.
Yeah,
it's all about the late
edition.
edition.
And that's basically what comes through in this one. You get a little. The first thing I get is that hop aroma, that juicy floral. First thing I get on my palate is a blend. You get a little bit of sweetness on the front of your tongue from the malt, but then it just balances really, really well with everything else and finishes pretty crisp and clean with just a little teeny bit of lingering hop bitterness.
Yeah.
That leaves you kind of wanting another sip.
Also, pale ales for me, like, they're always such a pretty beer.
Yeah, it is a pretty beer.
Yeah.
They are one of the most visually enticing things.
I
except
agree.
for now, I'm like, bro, haze.
Haze craze?
I think those look cool.
Yeah, they do. They are pretty. They Instagram well.
Yeah.
Gram it.
Gramming.
So that's our take on a classic American Pale Ale, guys. If you want to try, we'll put the recipe down below, or you can link through our shop at Brewgrass Homebrew, and we have a link to the recipe kit and all that good stuff. If you want to try your hand at kind of crafting your own custom pale ale, come on in. We'll talk about ingredients. We'll talk about ways you can kind of get it put together. There are some really good ones out on the market right now.
Yep.
Especially here in Kentucky. Country Boy has a phenomenal, what is it called? Halfway Home?
Halfway Home.
Really good APA.
Very similar to this, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the one at Flat 12, their Walkabout.
Their Walkabout up at Flat 12.
It's a great beer.
Really, really good beer. So,
Zombie Dust is an APA.
Is that an APA?
Yes, it is.
Nice. They're pushing the limits, just
Yeah,
like Free Floyd
well,
should.
Little.
I mean, with beer, there's a lot of gray area in terms of the terminology.
That's a very good point. So what makes the perfect pale ale ultimately is whatever the hell you say.
Yeah.
Whatever you like.
One little thing to note is if you're just getting into this is a great beer to start.
If you're trying to homebrew your first beer,
this is a great starting point.
Good point. Yeah, we've done a lot of these for.
It's hard to mess up. It's hard to mess up or taste the messes.
Right. Because there's a lot of good flavors and all that kind of good stuff. And it's a beer that you'll enjoy if you're already into craft beer. But if you have friends who aren't necessarily into it, this is a good gateway beer. I think.
No doubt.
So. Until next time, guys, let us know what other recipes you'd like to see in our, what did I call this? Crafting beer? Crafting beer? Yeah. So let us know what other beers you'd like to see us tackle in crafting beer, and we'll put them together for you.
Send us some weird shit.
Thanks, guys, and until next time, brew something awesome. Crafting Beer is produced by Boy Meets Wart and presented by Brewgrass Homebrew Supply. For recipes, questions, or anything else, find us at brewgrasshomebrew.com. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
But if you are going to do it in a sarcastic way. Like, make fun of yourself while you're doing it.
Or you could just
like this video.
Yeah, or just
here.
When people are like this video and then share it with your friends on Facebook and then share it on Instagram and then share it on Snapchat. I hate when people do that.